and you have to sign in with your Google account. I have just pasted the link. I've just pasted the link in the chat window. You can click and you can sign into Google Cloud, and we will have some practice session also, and we will go slow. That is also a feedback from the previous sessions. We will go slow so that everyone is in the same page. Mr. Anand, hope now the noise have reduced. Is the noise level okay? Okay, please confirm in the chat window. I request everyone to kindly mute their mic and use the chat window for any questions. And if you like to have some conversation, then you can unmute yourself and we can have a verbal conversation. In order to better utilize the bandwidth, if you can mute your video, that is also good practice we can follow, so that we can conserve some bandwidth. This meeting is also recorded, and the volunteers from IAMP will upload it into a YouTube channel, and in future you can also go through it. So before others join, I like to just recap what we have seen in the last session, so that everyone is in the same page. We haven't gone to a very serious level, or I would say a level where others cannot follow. This is a very preliminary one, what we are doing it. Okay, in the first 2 or 3 sessions, there is a motivation. We touched upon a few problem areas, how energy analytics can be useful for, say, a textile industry, for, say, building energy analytics, how it will be useful, what is the time series forecasting and other things. Okay, and that recordings also is available in the YouTube video, and you can go through it when time permits. Now, there are different phases in analytics. One is the initial phase, which is the descriptive analytics. Okay, and we are going to touch or concentrate more on the descriptive analytics, where we will describe the problem, and we will use 2 platforms. One is the R Cloud. R is a statistical software dedicated for data analytics. It's very easy, and it is almost equivalent to our English language in terms of the command and other things. So we, if you are starting data analytics, kindly start with R. And we also are planning to have Python sessions, especially for students who are planning to have their career in data science. We will have separate sessions for them. Others also can join. Okay. So just a recap of what we have seen last is, we introduced about the R Studio Cloud. R is the language, and Studio is the IDE, the integrated development environment, where people can use the R platform and make a very good analysis of the data. One of the data which was used, so okay, so request the volunteers to kindly go through the queries. Even please refer to the IAMP WhatsApp group. There are some queries which are coming inside on connectivity. Welcome, Dr. Srinivas. I have muted you just to avoid disturbance to other participants. If there are some questions, you can unmute yourself and you can ask. Fine. So coming back to the topic, R Studio, we introduced to the participant about the cloud platform, the integrated development environment in the cloud. Just to give a recap, the cloud platform, after you come inside, if you just open your project, the project will be something like this. click on any of the title. You can name the project specific. For example, I have given the name IAMP session 8. This is the session I am using from last webinar onwards. Okay, and the IDE more or less look like this. Okay, I think for all of you it will be like this. Okay, there are very important aspects we have to understand. One is the console here. What you are seeing here, the console. The console, you can type your say commands. Okay, so you can ask and help. Okay, maybe something like this. Okay, and it will start the help file. You can see on the right hand side the help is getting open. But this console is a temporary memory. That means whatever you are typing gets I would say not stored. Okay, but there is another environment in the top, which is called the terminal. Okay, where you can type the script. Okay, you see here the R script. You can type the R script. Okay, you have to just click on this, like how in Windows or in Excel you are opening a new file. The same way you have to just click on this plus, so that a new document is getting open, something like this. I'm doing it. Okay, so R script, then it will open an untitled one. Okay, so I have already opened it, so I'm sticking with this. Okay, fine. And this particular the integrated development environment has a lot of features. It will help us to come out of small syntax errors and other things. So you can see here now. I want some packages to be installed. Okay, it is suggesting me, boss, you are calling those packages in the command, but you haven't installed it. Okay, then I have to just tell it like, okay, please go ahead, install it. Okay, then it will start installing it. Okay, so in that way it is very user friendly. You will not have any problems. Okay, now coming back to the other side, the right hand side, the top is the environment. Whatever data you are pulling inside the code, the environment has that particular data. For example, one of the data which I have stored here is having 1,19,000 rows of data and 23 variables. That means 23 columns. So row is the number of observations. Okay, and 23 is the number of column. Okay, and this is a data which is related to solar energy, and it is solar power plant. Okay, and it is connected to a battery, and from that through an inverter it is going to the home for consumption. Okay, so we will do a small analysis of that particular data set, and we will use this particular data set to brief the participant on what are all the different type of analytics possible, especially in a domain like energy. Okay, so request the volunteers to admit all the people who are there coming in the lobby, please. Okay, fine. So another important data which is widely used, I would say, especially for teaching, is the data called mtcars. Okay, so simply I am using an English type of command here, data in the bracket mtcars, and I am asking, okay, please import the mtcars and show me what is that. Okay, so you can see here I have asked the data to come inside. You can see here the mtcars data has come. So I have already opened it. I'm just closing it so that I can show to you. Okay, I'm closing all things. Okay, so mtcars, if I click on that, then it will show what is this particular data all about. Okay, this is the data on the efficiency of an automobile. Okay, and this is the data some time back. Okay, they have collected different models of car or the SUVs. What is the mileage per gallon? MPG is mileage per gallon. How much cylinder it is having? What is the displacement, HP, and other things? Okay, so this is a data which is, I would say, because most of us know about automobile, so it will be very easy for us to relate and understand what is this all about. Okay, so there are some beautiful commands in R, which is also very close to English language. For example, I want to understand how many number of columns in this particular data. So all the data, like in our spreadsheet, you are having rows and columns. Okay, 32 rows are there and 11 columns are there. Okay, so I can see how many columns also like this. Okay, say I am typing in the console, Okay. Number of columns, n column is number of column in the empty cars data set. If I type, it is saying 11. Okay. Obviously, we can see it by seeing the environment itself, 32 observations and 11 variables. Okay. But what we want to see here is this particular data also can be stored into a variable. Okay, I'm creating a variable n_call. Okay, this is the name I am giving. Okay, I can also give like a number of columns. Okay, like that also I can give. Okay, so number of columns is having 11. Okay, so if I call number of column variable, it will give me 11. Okay, same way number of rows, n row is number of row. We know like it is having, I think, 32 rows. Am I right? Okay, 32 rows. Yes, so it will have 32 rows, and that will get stored in number of row. Okay, so this is what we have seen last class. Okay, and column names. Okay, what are all the columns available? See, whenever we are doing an analysis, we also have to understand the name of that particular column. Only then it will be very easy for doing some analysis. Okay, so column name, same like how I'm using n row, I am also using here column name within bracket the data's name. Okay, data name here is empty car. Okay, empty cars. Okay, so this is the column name. Let me see what are all the column names. Column names in empty cars. Okay, so it will show me like you are having 11 columns. What are all the columns? MPG, cylinder, displacement, HP, okay, gear, how many carburetors and other things. Okay, same way number of rows. Okay, so all these things we have seen. If we want to understand what is the dimension of the data set what we are having, dim is the command we have to use, and with that we have created one more variable called dim_df. So whatever that 32/1 what we are seeing in the environment, the 32 observations, 11 variables as a data is also coming here. Okay, so this is what we have seen last time. Okay, now another important thing what we did is now we know what are all the different columns, and now I have to understand what is the relationship between these columns. Okay, so one of the way how I can find the relationship is how the variable is moving, or how the variable is changing with respect to another variable. Okay, so so what I am doing is I am copying a variable 1 which has the mileage. Okay, and I am copying a variable 2 which has the HP, horsepower. Okay, so can anybody in the chat, okay, just as a recap, okay, you can chat or you can unmute and you can just give me the answer. Okay, can you okay, thank you. So can anyone say like what would be the relationship between mileage and HP, whether it will be directly proportional or inversely proportional, mileage and horsepower? Can I have some answers? Mileage and horsepower, what would be the relationship, whether it will be directly proportional or inversely proportional?
It is inversely proportional.
Wonderful, it will be inversely proportional. Okay, but this is something which we know, and we have to understand it, right? And statistically we have to understand. So mileage is in this particular column. I have 32 rows of mileage, and HP also I am having 32 rows of horsepower. Okay, now I want to understand when talking this is a common sense. Okay, or I would say like an engineering sense, like a mileage will be inversely proportional to horsepower. Okay, more the horsepower, less efficient will be the engine. That is what we all know, right? But when we are teaching the machine, because here this is machine learning. Okay, we are teaching the machine doesn't have this common sense, so we have to feed in a numerical number which shows this particular relationship, and it should also have some direction which communicates to the machine that that is directly proportional or inversely proportional. Okay, so now what I am doing is I am taking a variable 1 which is mileage and variable 2 as a horsepower. I am using a command which is correlation. COR is correlation. See how intuitive is this particular IDE. Just you type that particular name. For example, I type COR automatically it will say in COR what are all the things available. Okay, so I am using correlation, which is a number, numerical number, which shows how is the relationship between these two variables. As rightly said by sir, variable 1 and variable 2, which is mileage here and horsepower here, will have an inversely proportional. Now, what is the degree it is inversely proportional? First, inverse is denoted by minus here, and the number 77.61 denotes a scale of 0 to 1 how much it is inversely proportional. So we can have like something like 77. It's a scale between 0 to 1. Okay, so that is it is inversely proportional, and the proportionality is somewhere as a factor of 0.77. Okay, so that is the inference what we have to take out of it. Now, just to explain you what are all the ways we can do this particular addressing. Okay, if at all you want to try. Okay, this empty cars or the empty car data set is free with R. Okay, so it will be available. Instead of a variable 1 moving into something, I can also type here empty cars, okay, and use the $sign, and I can select MPG. Okay, and empty cars, instead of creating one more variable, I can directly type the variable name here. How I am addressing? I am first typing what is the data frame or the data set's name. Here, the data set name what we have created is empty cars. Okay, and I want to address which column I have to select. So I am using this particular $ symbol for that. When I type the $ symbol, our environment will give me what are all the different columns available for me to select. So I have to just use the up and down arrow and select HP. Okay, now this also will give the same result. You see here, this also will give the same result. Okay, now I am copying and pasting this particular result. Okay, this is what you also will do whenever you are doing some exercise and you want to save it for future. Okay, but whenever you are saving it like this, it will automatically compile, and the IDE will say, boss, I think there is an error when in this particular command. Okay, but we know like this is not a command, this is a result you have copied from the console and pasting it here. Whenever you have to paste like this, use the commenting symbol, which is the hash. Okay, use hash. After that you can type whatever it is. Okay, so you can type like it is a inversely proportional. Inversely proportional. Okay, so this you can do same way. Let me go to some other variable. Okay, let me see weight. Okay, now can anyone suggest what will be the correlation between weight and the mileage, whether it will be directly proportional or inversely proportional?
Inversely proportional.
Inversely proportional. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Let me check that also. Okay, so I am seeing mileage. Okay, comma, empty cars. Okay, weight, WT is weight. Okay, so it is inversely proportional. Yes, it is inversely proportional. More the weight, more consumption of fuel it will take for moving it. That is obvious. Now, can anyone tell me what would be the proportionality when compared to weight and horsepower? Whether it will be directly proportional or inversely proportional? Directly proportional.
Direct.
Yes. Great. Why? If it is more weight, I have to put more power to move it. Okay. So our engineering intuition says it should be directly proportional. Great. Now we are getting an answer. Yes, it is directly proportional, but it is proportionality is very less. Okay, 0.65 is the proportionality here. Okay, so 0.65 is the proportionality here. Okay, fine. So like this, we can do a lot of these kind of things. Now, the one way of doing it is getting the data as a number, okay, or the result as a number. Another way of doing it is making it more pictorial. For example, say you are doing an audit of a factory, okay, and you want to suggest like how the energy consumption of a particular cell or a particular section of a factory is related to another section. Okay, so can you use correlation there? Can you use correlation there? If you want to relate two numerical variables, which is energy consumption of a particular cell and energy consumption of the next cell or the next stage of a process. Okay, if this process finishes, the next process will start. Okay, so normally there will be some relationship between these two things. When you have to do an auditing kind of thing and understand how this relationship is, you can use this correlation factor as the way, as the numeric, as the indicator for you. Okay, but when you are putting in the audit report, you have to put it as a good picture. Okay, that is also very important. The way now we have seen the values, how we can make it picture. This also last session we saw it. Okay, I installed it in the last session itself, so I don't have to install. So I will don't worry, I will this particular code will be circulated at the end of the session in the chat window. You can copy it and use it. Just sign into rstudio.cloud, and after that open your terminal, play around with this particular code, understand what are all the different things. We have seen the relationship between 2 or 3 variables. You can multiply, you can also try for other variables also. Okay, so now the correlation factor as a picture, if you want to have, you can have it using this particular library called corplot. Okay, correlation plot. Okay, so correlation plot. Now what I am doing is I am using, instead of selecting each and every data set, I am directly creating the correlation between all different combinations of data. That means horsepower with mileage, okay, horsepower with number of say engines, okay, horsepower with the displacement of that particular engine, okay, horsepower with weight. Okay, so all these variables I am taking into consideration, and I am creating the correlation for all the things. So for that, I don't want to spoil this particular data, so I am moving this particular data into a temporary I would say a folder or a name set. Okay, so I am creating something called data. Okay, just to give it a name. Okay, and this arrow mark, the lesser than symbol followed by a hyphen, is normally used for equal to in R. Okay, there is a reason, because the equal to, if you use double equal to, then that is having a different meaning. Okay, so we normally recommend to use only this arrow mark as the equal to symbol in R. Okay, so data equal to empty cars. So empty cars data, I am moving it into a variable called data. Okay, and I am using the same core plot. Okay, the same core function to create all the different combinations of correlation between the factors. Okay, so now let me do it and plot it. Okay, so as I already told, core plot is a beautiful plot which will do the plotting of this particular correlation matrices. Okay, so I am just trying to plot it. Okay, now I hope it is plotted. Okay, beautiful. So it got plotted. Okay, this is where I think in the last session we paused. Okay, so what this particular picture is giving us, it's a beautiful picture with a lot of different colors. Okay, you can see here it is comparing mileage versus mileage. If you compare mileage versus mileage, then it will be 1. Okay, so 1, that means it is a dark blue. You can see the scale on the right hand side. It is dark blue. That means it is 1. Okay, same way, -1 is dark red. Okay, so you can see here, we know that mileage versus HP, we saw the correlation, right? It was somewhere around 77. Okay, and minus it is. So it is -77. So -77 is some color here. Okay, like that, it will plot the relationship between all the combinations of variables into a beautiful graph like this. So seeing this particular thing, you can understand how the variables in my data set is correlating, how the data set is correlating. Now, let me we will also try to do it for some other thing. Okay, so just okay, correlation of, I told you, like I have the solar data set with me. Okay, some energy data set. We will go into detail about that particular data set, but initially I will show you something. Okay, So what will be the correlation of what is here? Irradiance? Do you have irradiance? Irradiance? Yeah, irradiance. Okay, what will be the correlation between irradiance and the solar power generation? Whether it will be directly proportional or inversely proportional? Any answers, please?
Directly proportional.
Directly proportional.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now I have this particular data set, which is an energy data set. Okay, here we have seen the car. Okay, how the mileage and other things. That is also mechanically it is a thermal energy, and the comparison what we are doing. You can see here, yes, it is directly proportional, but you can see the proportionality. Logically, it has to be direct, but you can see it is only 0.54. Okay, which is I would say like not so strong correlation. It is a very weak correlation. Same way, let me do the core plot of temperature and power generation. Temperature and final solar data. Again, these are all synthetic data. Okay, but again, this will have some what is that logic also. Okay. It is built from real data, but it is synthetic data. Now, what should be the correlation here? Temperature versus solar power, direct or inversely proportional?
It is inversely.
Inversely, yes. Yeah. Yeah. The solar panel temperature, okay, will affect the or it will degrade the generation with that particular solar panel. Yes. That is also there. Let me see. I don't know. I also haven't gone through this particular data. Let's see. Oh, what is the problem? I think I am having some problem here. Maybe the data set is not good. Okay. So you see NA. I don't know why NA. Okay. Let's park it here. Maybe we will take some other thing. Okay. What is the next location, date and time? No, okay, use that. So, I think I cannot use other things. Okay, fine. Let's see the load power. Okay, load power and the solar power. Okay, whether it is directly proportional. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, that is inversely proportional. That is something strange. Okay, so that means we have to investigate. Domain experts have to investigate here. So if the load power and the solar power, I don't know, because there will be there will be hours, maybe in the night also power consumption will be there, but the solar production will not be there. Could be because of that you are getting a inversely proportional. So when we are deep diving into, see, this is the beauty of this particular correlation plot. What this does is this sees all the different combinations of correlation and gives us the result. Okay, gives us the result. Now, if you want to deep dive into this, okay, what you have to do is just select this, okay, and press function F1. Then automatically you will have an help file here. You can see here the right hand side bottom you will have an help file. Okay, you can go through it, but normally I will skip. Okay, directly you can see this particular section. Okay, you see here it will show what is the format we have to use, what are the different variations we can use. Okay, something like that will be available. And in the last, if you go, you will have some examples also. You see here the same empty card is being used, and there are some beautiful examples they have given. Okay, you can try this particular example also. Just you have to log in into rstudio.cloud. Log in with your Google account. That's all. Okay, go log in with your Google account, then you will have all these things. Okay. Okay. You can also have something like clusters. Okay. So what you can do is with that particular correlation, you can create some clusters also. That is also possible with this particular thing. Okay. So we will see these things in detail. Okay. Another beautiful thing, which I would say something fresh. I think last session we stopped there and we want to continue there. Okay. So I am copying this particular link and I'm also pasting it in the chat window. Okay, chat window. Okay, you are having the Khan Academy's link. Okay, so I want to introduce you to another important statistical parameter called box plot. Okay, so we have to now understand more into the data and some kind of statistics also. Okay, for some senior people like you, this may not be something new for you, but there are there are students also in this particular thing. So we will go step by step so that everyone is at the same page. Okay. Now, what is a box plot? Box plot is a way how we can visually show how the distribution of the data is. Okay. I don't know anything about the data, but I want to see how this data is. Okay. Let's take this particular example and let's go to Excel. Okay. One of the beautiful tool, okay, Excel, and do this particular small exercises and understand what is box plot, and then we will deploy the same for our use case. Okay, our use case of MTCAS. Okay, so that we understand the basics, and it will be very easy for us to march forward. Okay, please allow. Yeah. So I have the data here. Okay, so I think it will be a comma separated variable. Yes, it is comma separated, but why is it? Data text to column. So this is comma separated. Finish. Okay. So now I have the text with me, but for some reason it is like this. I don't know why. 28, 29, 29, 30. Fine. So I have the data set here.
Sir,
Let me change the data set.
the box plot we use for cause and effect diagram.
Sorry, sir. Please come again. What is that?
Box plot we use to study the cause and effect analysis.
Yeah, cause and effect analysis.
When the,
Yes. Yes. We will use that. Yes, you are right, sir. You are right. Okay. So now I have this particular data with me. Okay. Now let me see what is the average of this. Okay. Average of this complete data set. Okay. Fine. So it says this is 32. Okay. Great. Okay. And let me see what is the standard deviation of this. The standard deviation of this. So I have a standard deviation of 4.34. Okay. Now, do we have a mode here? I don't know. We have a mode here, that is 29. Okay. So we have the mean, the standard deviation, the mode. Okay. Fine. And if you know, you have something like data analytics tool pack. Okay. Normally we will use it, and you can go to descriptive statistics and you can ask the descriptive statistics of this particular thing. Okay. So all these things will be coming there. Okay. So okay. And output range. I want the descriptive statistics to be here. Okay. This is my input. Okay. And this is where I want my output. Okay. And this will give me the descriptive statistics. Okay. To select this. Okay, so this gives the descriptive statistics of some data. Okay, so it gives the standard deviation, the variance of it, the kurtosis of it, the skewness of it, what is the range, okay, min, max, minus that is the range, and some count and the confidence level of the distribution and other things, okay. Great. Do we have somewhere skewness? Yes, skewness is also there, okay. So what is this skewness? What is this kurtosis? All these things. This is the descriptive statistics. Yes. Yes, sir. Please.
Sir, which is easier, using Minitab or Excel sheet?
Sir, yeah. Sir, what I suggest is over a period of time, you will appreciate using R, okay, which is free, okay, and you don't have to pay any license for this, and that will give you much more comfort level than Minitab or Excel.
Okay.
Okay, so I would say maybe some 8 years back, I was using Minitab, okay, for my Six Sigma kind of work, okay, but now I completely stopped it, okay. I am using only R for some other things, Excel. That is more than enough for us. We don't have to spend time, money for these things, okay. Fine, sir. So can we go back, sir, to this particular topic? Do you have any other queries?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
No, sir.
So, thank you,
Please,
sir. Thank
please
you.
go ahead.
Yeah. So we have the descriptive statistics here. Now, this is more, I would say, having a lot of data. Okay. Sometimes, yeah, it's good to have it in our report, but making it more pictorial is the box plot. Okay. So now, coming to the box plot. Okay. So this is the descriptive statistics here. Okay. Let me name it as descriptive stats of I would say a series of variable. Okay. So what are all the things this gives? Minimum, maximum. You can see here you are having min, max. It is there. Okay. And you want to see the range. Okay. We know that min minus max minus min is the range. Okay. And skewness. Okay. According to me, you can see here this is balanced on both the side. What is the median here? This is the median. Okay. And both the sides are same in terms of I would say this size. Okay, the rectangle is same. Okay, that means there is no skewness. This is whatever is there in the picture is a normal distribution. Okay, so there is no problem. Okay, there is no skewness. Okay, kurtosis also there should not be a problem there. Okay, now let me use the same data. We know the descriptive statistics, and now let me construct this particular box plot by ourselves. Okay, we know this data, right? With this, let me construct the box plot by ourselves. Only then we will appreciate how R is doing. Otherwise, this is only a line of code for R, and it will just do it like this. Okay, but let me understand how this is done. Okay, so that it will be easy for us. Okay, first and foremost, step one. What is step one? Is order the data from smallest to largest. Okay, so first what we have to do, I have to sort the data. So smallest to largest, starting from 25 to 38, which is the highest number, I have to sort it. Okay, now I have sorted it. Now find very important is this particular. Let me cut this. Okay, so this middle line is the median line. Okay, so we have to calculate the median. Okay, so median is the middle number. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 on both sides. I have 30 and 34 in the middle divided by 2. Sum of these two things divided by 2 is 32. That is my median. Now I know what is my median. Okay, now coming to the next one. What is my quartile? What is quartile? Okay, quart means quarter, right? So quarter means 25, okay, 50, 75. This is the step, okay? So 0, 25, 50, 75, 100, okay? So what is the normal indication is this 25, 50, 70, this quartile or this particular segment of the data should range of the data, there should be more data points in that particular range. Okay, so there should be more data points in that particular range. That is our if it is a normal distribution, it will be like this. Okay, but if it is something skewed, okay, or it is flat, okay, then just by seeing that particular box plot, we will be able to take a decision, or a histogram, we will be able to take a decision. More than histogram, box plot is will give more information to us. Okay, so now this is the quartiles, okay, or I would say the quarter you can have, okay, then it is quartiles. Okay, now the first quartile is the median of the data point to the left. Okay, so 30, 34, these two things are combining, and that is my median. Okay, now I have 25, 28, 29, 29. Okay, so to my left I have some data. Okay, that particular data is my Q1, that is quartile 1. Okay, that is my quartile 1. Okay, now right side, whatever data is there, that is my quartile 3. Okay, in the center, whatever is that median, that is my Q2. Okay, so that is, I would say here, let me mark it something like this. Okay, so this is Q1, this is Q2, and this is Q3. Okay, so Q3. So that is my third quartile. So I have the first quartile, I have the second quartile, I have the third quartile. Now, if I can plot the number of variables as a horizontal bar, then I will get a box plot. Okay, so I have to construct a box. Okay, like this. I have to construct a line first, and after that I have to put a box over it, and that box, how much should be the length, is getting decided based on this particular value. So Q1 is 29, Q2 is my median, which is 32, and Q3 is my 35. Okay, so this is my, now becomes the box. Okay, now what is the min and max also I have to mark, right? So min and max also I will mark, which is I think in this case 25 and 38. Okay, 25 and 38, I am marking the min and max. Okay, so this is the very important I would say statistical figure called box plot. Okay, any doubts in this? Okay, there is a lot of application for box plot. We will talk about it in a live example. Okay, any doubt in this? Okay. Now, okay, sir, if you are not having any doubt, kindly mute your mic, please. Okay, fine. So now, if there are no doubts, let me go into the data and use the same data and see what is the problem. I think we had some problem with the temperature data, right? Temperature data. Okay, so what is this problem? Let me understand. And let me use this. Yeah. You see here? Okay, so this is my temperature data. This is my temperature data. Okay, but I think there is some problem with this measurement. Okay, this can happen in the real world. In the real world, all the data may not be perfect. Okay, you can see here it is almost stable, and after that you are having some variation here. And what is this? Wow, that is also an abnormal. Okay, now can somebody throw some light? Okay, do you think this is a normal data? What can you see my cursor? This is a normal data. Any answers, please?
No, it is beyond the limit.
Okay, it's a beyond the limit. Great. And this line without a variance is also a problem for us. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I think whatever we are seeing here, this is good. Actually, this is good, right? So this is good, but this is abnormal. Now this is some and what we are doing is we are making this particular deduction of abnormal data by seeing. Okay, now I have to teach my machine also to do it. Okay, so how to do it? Okay, how to do it? Any way to do it statistically? I think many of us in our Six Sigma or the quality circle, we might have used something called 7QC tools. Yeah, 7QC tools we have used. Okay, and 7QC tools, there is something called the SPC, statistical process control. There will be upper control limit, lower control limit. Okay, and whichever is crossing the control limit. If you see the Q1 and Q2 in our example, okay, if you see nothing, this is my UCL or I will say LCL, okay, lower control limit, and this is my UCL, okay, and this is my middle, okay, median, okay, median. Anything beyond my UCL or LCL, I will give a special attention to it. Am I right? That is how we do it in real industry, right? Same way, now we know that there is a problem. We had this problem when we are finding the correlation. Yes, yes, sir. Yes, please.
Sir, one minute. Not only beyond the USL, even nearer to USL, either to the left or to the right,
Exactly,
nearer to USL also.
Exactly.
We have to give. Right.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. So, in terms of the capability of a manufacturing process, the CP/CPK values, we will see the distribution of that particular data also. Okay, how close that particular data is to the median. As close as to the median, that is a good data with good control. If it is away from that median, that means any time it can cross the limit. Okay, great, sir. Great. Thanks for the prompt. Okay, now this is about machine learning. Now the same thing I have to do it through machines. My computer have to do it. Okay, how this can do? This can do based on statistics. Okay. Now what is the stats here? Let me see. I am, instead of making a plot like this, I am making a box plot. Okay, I am making a box plot. You see here, I have the same box plot. Okay, you see here, this is a very big plot which shows the time series data, the data over a period of time, how it is varying. We know like there is an outlier. Now you see here, this is my box plot. What my box plot is also saying, I am having more data. Okay, my box plot is very lean. Okay, I want to be as lean as like this. Okay, but I am fat. Okay, but it is very lean. Why this is lean? Any inputs? Why this is lean?
Because all the data are concentrated within a particular certain narrow range.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful.
All data are in the narrow range itself.
Wonderful. Yes, you're right. So, okay. So let me compare the time series data and my box plot. Okay, so that we understand it. Okay, now let me go to my time series data. This is my time series data. Okay. I have it here. Okay, then this data also. So in the bottom, this is the, I would say, line graph, or time series plot. Okay, in the top, for the same data, this is the box plot. Okay, one of the very important thing, we know box plot, we have seen in our training, what Khan Academy is saying, box plot have to be something like this. But how my box plot is, the box plot for this particular data of solar data temperature, you see here, it is flat. That means the median value can be somewhere around 39. It is more in numbers. Okay, and after that there is a variation, and that variation you can see here, it is between this and this, that is somewhere between 41 and 37. So 37 to 41 is the variation, or yeah, somewhere Beyond that, there is one outlier. You see here, the same outlier here is this outlier. Okay, and so this median, the value which is always constant, that become my median. Okay, when I see a box plot like this, what will come to your mind? Okay, you cannot have the data, time series data for, say, if you are having in a power plant, you are having, say, some 1,000 variables. Okay, for all the 1,000 variables, can you see the time series data and make a conclusion like whether all the things are okay? See here, what could have happened? What could have happened? Could be like the temperature sensor is disconnected and it might be giving a constant data. That means there will be some lower limit which might have set in the controller, and always it is reporting the lower limit. During a maintenance, somebody have found it and they might have connected it, and after that you are getting a variation data. And maybe someone, when doing something, they might have opened it, there will be some spike in the electrical signal. Because of that, a faulty data is also there. Okay, so when we are doing automatic machine learning, AI, ML, we use this particular box plot or this principle of quartile, okay, to make the decision. Now, how the plot is making a circle here, and it's saying like this is an outlier. Okay, there is a logic, there is a calculation for that. The calculation there is anything above the particular whisker line, that is the minimum and maximum, will be a outlier. Okay, so let me go to Khan Academy. Yes, we are here now, judging outliers in a database. Okay, so this is what we are going to see. Okay, there is a good video on that. Okay, I don't want this video. Okay, so what is this outlier concept? Okay, what is this outlier concept? For example, the following dot shows the centuries during which 11 castles whose ruin remains in Somerset. Okay, I don't know. Let's forget about the story. This is something English. Okay, let's see. Like there are one data at the number line of 12. After that 13, after that 14, after that 16, and 17. There are two datas, and there are one data only at 19. Okay, this is how it is. Okay, so the median for this is 14. The Q1 is after 14. Okay, so 12, 13. Okay, so when we calculate it, then it is 13, and when we calculate the right hand side, then it is coming somewhere around 17. Okay, now this is 17. Now I have the maximum value, which is 19, and the minimum value is 12. Okay, so this is what normal quartile if I calculate and depict it in a box plot. Now, what is outlier here? What is the rule of outlier here? The rule of outlier is the IQR. IQR is nothing but interquartile range. The interquartile range, that means it is the difference between Q1 and Q3. So what is the difference between Q1 and Q3? 17 minus 13 is what? 4. Okay, 4 into 1.5. Okay, 4 into 1.5 is 6. Okay, anything beyond 14 plus 6, anything from median more than 6, that is more than 20, if something is there, then it is an outlier. Okay, so that is an outlier. You see here, that is outlier. Okay, now let me go to the next problem.
Sir, what you told? Sir, what you got? 1.5.
1.5 into interquartile range. 1.5 into interquartile range. Interquartile range is the difference between Q3 and Q1. So 17 minus 13 is 4. Okay. into 1.5 is I think 6. Am I right, sir? Okay.
Right.
Okay, 6. So now 6 plus median, 14 plus 6 is 20. So if a data more than 20, if it is coming, then it is an outlier for me. That means that is an abnormal data for me. That is an abnormal data. In our example, the abnormal data, even in the abnormal data, there are some other type of abnormalities also. There are some contextual abnormalities also people will come across that we will see later. You see here, sir, there is an abnormal data. So here, what is my interquartile range? We have all the data. Let me calculate. What is my interquartile range? Q3 minus Q1. Q3 is 35. So what is my IQR? Okay, first is Q3 minus Q1. Okay, so here it is 35 minus 29. Okay, and for the IQR, I have to multiply with the constant, which is the constant here is 1.5. Okay, so 6, which is my IQR. Okay, this here. Okay, multiplied by constant is 6 into 1.5 is 9. Okay, now if I have to put my whisker, that means the control limit, how I will put is 9 plus my median is my Q2. The median here is 32. Okay, so in the plus, the upper control limit is 41. Okay, so the upper control limit UCL is 41, and my LCL or the lower whisker is same but 32 minus 9. This is my UCL and LCL. So 41, 23. You got it, sir, for this particular example. Now, let's see, like I am having another data which is coming inside. Okay, let me put it in a different color, which is 52. Okay, if I put 52, what will happen? It will cross my UCL. 52 will cross my UCL, which is 41. So this particular data is an outlier, abnormal data. Okay, so each and every abnormality I have to detect. So can you suggest me where this particular logic we can teach the machine, and if it does an outlier detection, it will be useful. Can you give some example, please? I also request the students from our student chapter also to respond, please. Can I have some response? Where this particular outlier detection algorithm we can use? Yes, Ms. Ansari,
The
please.
manufacturing of a machine part,
Yeah.
whether it is within a particular range of dimensions or not.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Okay, can there be some example for energy and how this is very much important for energy? Obviously, quality deviation also is energy related topic.
Say variation in voltage.
Variation in voltage, great, sir. Okay. Any other answers? How many of you have attended the ISO 50001 webinar of Mr. Mallikarjun?
Is it related to the overloading of machine?
Yes, overloading. Okay,
Hello.
great, sir. But I am asking the context of energy management. Context of energy management.
Yes. That means above capacity of that machine, the energy
Yeah.
consumption is increasing.
Yeah. Yes, sir, but that is a threshold violation, sir. Sir, what is the difference between a statistical violation and a threshold violation? Threshold violation is the capacity. For example, I am having a motor which is 30 kilowatt. Okay, so this more than 30 kilowatt, I should not load. That's all. Okay, maybe momentarily based on the class of the motor, I can load. So that is a threshold violation. So I know this particular number. For that, statistics is not required. Statistics is for something. If you want something strike in my mind when my professor said a statistician is someone in a dark room searching a black cat. Okay, so whenever there is unknown things beyond engineering is there we have to get the help of statistics. So any such example in energy, please?
Say a change of current due to loading factor in the process.
Wonderful,
Change
sir. Wonderful.
the current of the motor.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Yes. That is a very important factor. Now, if you recall ISO 50001, there is a requirement which I understand from the seniors of IIMP. They also emphasize. Okay, they may not be, I would say, like ISO 50001 certified people, but they also emphasize any significant variation in energy consumption. Okay, how to be first detected, okay, recorded, and it has to be investigated. Any significant change in energy consumption, it may be high, it may be low also, but that has to be recorded. That event has to be recorded, and that has to be investigated. If it is good, we have to learn from that lesson. If it is bad, we have to see that how this can be avoided in future. For example, lighting energy. Okay, and lighting energy, if you make a hourly energy consumption as a plot, okay, and you do a box plot with respect to the hour of a day, okay, and just imagine suddenly at mid day of 12 o'clock, you are getting a spike on one particular day, okay, and that particular spike, if you want to understand, okay, any abnormal deviation, just you have to plot the data in that particular hour and in a box plot, and if there is an outlier, what my box plot have detected, or a value which is more than 1.5 times of my interquartile range, which is my normal data, then I can see like, a boss, during this particular time something have gone wrong and my lighting energy has shooted up, which is an abnormal behavior. This kind of behavior I haven't seen it. So those kind of abnormal anomalial behavior have to be investigated. We have to investigate why you consumed that particular energy like that. Was there a very deliberate reason? Could be like people were taking a maintenance and they are switching on all the lights and seeing, or it is someone who have just kept the lights on and they haven't controlled it. Okay, just I'm citing an example. So anomaly detection and outlier detection using the principle of 1.5 into interquartile range. Please by heart it. 1.5 into interquartile range plus the median and minus the median, whatever values are there, that is something abnormal. Those values have to be filtered out, and that particular events have to be investigated. So that is where this particular statistics will be handy for us. That is where this particular statistic will be handy for us. Now let's quickly go back to our data and see whether there are some other outliers here. Okay, whether there are. Come to my R. So we have seen the temperature. Okay, now let's see if there are some outliers in my other data. Okay, so what is the data I want? I want, say, irradiance. Okay, because temperature and irradiance, these are all sensors. Okay, and these sensors sometimes may malfunction. Okay, malfunction of a sensor, that also we can find it out with this particular interquartile range calculation. You can see here there are some outliers here. That means in this particular time, maybe the irradiance sensor, either it is giving more value or that needs to be calibrated or something like that. So for that also we can use it. Okay, like this, what we have to do is we have to plot all the variables and see whether the variable there is a significant change in the pattern. Significant change in the pattern. Okay, so that is what we want to highlight. Now, we saw the descriptive statistics in Excel, right? And during that time, I told like more than Excel, you can do it very easily in R. Okay. So for that, I want to give you these small examples. Okay. This can be something like a kitty. You just copy and keep it, and you can use it whenever you want. Okay. First and foremost is finding the mean. Okay. So what I am doing here, I have my empty cars here. Okay. Empty cars here. I am creating a variable called M1, and I'm using something like apply. What I have to apply? Apply mean function. Mean is the averaging function on all the variables of empty cars, and give me the value. Okay, so this is the apply function. Okay, and let me apply it. Okay, so I am applying. Same way, I am asking it instead of mean, standard deviation. Okay, now instead of standard deviation, variance. How to do that? Okay, min, max, median, everything I can do. Now, once I have all this particular data, I have to bind the data. So how book binding, the same way there is a command called binding. So everything is English, nothing, no computer knowledge is required for all these things. Okay, just it is all English. Okay, so new, I'm saying, let me put it something like this. Okay, descriptive statistics. Okay. So I am binding all these things into something called a descriptive stat. Okay, and I have this particular value. Let me open it and see. So what I have done is I have taken M1, which is my mean. Okay, and after that is my what? I think I can also change this particular column names. Okay, that also I can do it. Okay, so next is standard deviation. Okay, let me do it. Of a mean, a standard deviation. Whenever you are giving letters or strings, you have to mention it always within quotes. Okay, that is the syntax you have to follow. Min, max, then I have the median. Okay. So, column name of this stat is okay, like this. I can also oops, I have to run the command slowly. That's good. Sorry. So I have my descriptive statistics, and I am moving the column name of descriptive statistics as these things so that it appears good. Okay, now I have changed the column variables. Now, yeah. So mileage, the median, so the mean is 20.09, standard deviation is 6.02, variance is 3.6 something. Okay, minimum, maximum, median. Okay, like this you can also have kurtosis. Okay, that is also possible. If you want, you can add kurtosis as M7. Okay, skewness, that is also possible. Okay, so this is a stat language, so you can
Will
use
you say few lines kurtosis?
kurtosis. Okay.
Or please say few lines on kurtosis.
Yeah. I'm showing. Okay. So say you are having a normal distribution, something like this. Okay. When you are having the data as a normal distribution, the I think you know about the skewness, right, sir? So skewness is what you have told. Like the data should not be on either towards the lower control limit or upper control limit. So kurtosis it defines, kurtosis it defines how much, what is the kind of spread it is having. Okay, and skewness will give the value of how much it is towards the left or towards the right. So that is the difference between kurtosis and skewness. A combination of these two will tell us what is the spread of the data and towards which side there is a spread. Hello, sir. Did I answer your question? But if you want, I can also.
Yeah, sir. Correct. I got it.
Yeah.
Sir, I got it.
Got it? Yeah. So, okay, so you can also have kurtosis. That is also possible. So you don't have to depend on any paid software. All these things you can do it with R itself. So that is what we can do. Now, I have this particular data with me, but I want to save this particular data. I have to take the output from this particular data and save it. Okay, so what I can do is I can write it into a comma separated variable. That is also possible. So write.csv is the way how I can export that particular data into my hard drive. Okay, and after that I can use it for my reporting and other things. Okay, so that is on that. And in our next session, we will take one of the data set, okay, which is related to the solar panel. We have just seen what is this particular panel and all things about that. Okay, just to give a motivation to you, this particular data is something like this. Okay, it is recorded in a location called Peru, and this is in 2015. This particular data was recorded. So this is from a location where you are having a solar photovoltaic system. Okay, and there is a battery to store the particular energy, and there are two loads. Okay, load 1 and load 2. Okay, for that particular system, and this is also grid connected. And there is an inverter for converting the stored energy from the battery, and that is going into the home for consumption. There are two loads for consumption. In addition to all this particular thing, there is a metadata on what is the temperature in that particular area and what is the irradiance in that particular area. So these things are there. We will use this particular case study now. I think we understood the different ways of how we can explore the data, how the descriptive statistics we can get out of it. And now we will go into a real data set related to energy. And we will use this particular data set for describing first what is the problem and doing some type of diagnostics, and then we will try to predict using this particular data, okay, how efficient we can use this particular solar power plant, okay, or solar rooftop solar. Okay, so those kind of things will come. Okay, again, this also we have commented it so that this can be used by the researchers as well as by the professionals, just to change. We will tell you where you have to change. That's all. Okay, so that is why we have commented it. Okay, you have to change only in this particular area wherever comments are there. After that, the just you have to execute the code automatically. It will execute. And we will also now you can see these kind of graphs what you are having. These kind of graphs what you are having are not I would say user friendly for navigation. Okay, but when you want to do some good analysis, okay, there are some beautiful graphs I want to show you. So you see here, I cannot see what is this particular data, zoom in. It is not an interactive one, it is a static one. But there are some beautiful packages which can help you to make some interactive graphs. Okay, so that is what we are going to see in the next webinar session. And we will use the Plotly. Okay, just I will show you how beautiful it is. I really enjoyed it. You see here, this is not a static graph. You can even expand it. Okay. Zoom. And we will also show maybe in the later classes how you can build a web page which is interactive. That means you can do data analytics, but at the same time a web page for it. You see here, you can zoom in, okay, and see what is this particular data, when it got recorded. Okay, you can pan it like this. Okay, everything free. Okay, that's very important. Everything is free. Okay, and we will touch upon these things. Okay, so these are all some components which you can embed into your interactive reports. Okay, whenever you are doing a presentation, also you can use these particular reports and do a very impactful presentation to your clients. Okay, so that is what we are planning to show you. Okay, so with this particular motivation, looking forward to have you all for the next session. Kindly please continue participating in this particular session. Be in touch with the IAMP volunteers who will send you the links, okay, especially Mr. Gokul. And whenever you are having some difficulties, you want to analyze some data and you want our help, we can also help you. There is research associates from PSG College of Technology who are students of Professor Ashok. 4 or 5 people are there, okay, who can assist you for any such kind of questions, or if you want some support also, they will do it. Okay, so if there